There are lots of versions of the Jesus that was created by man to be some version that man finds acceptable, that he likes, that makes sense to him and what he really craves inside himself. Most of the versions of this Jesus are that of some loving, accepting, soft and mushy, soft-spoken, pro-human God who loved and accepted the humans and felt about the humans the same way that they feel about themselves, based on what they actually are. Which is ironies tripping over themselves. Because what the real Jesus was really like wasn't based on what man wants him to be, because man is guided by that will and purpose of himself, individually and collectively called the devil. The purpose of man, man's purpose, man's will, individually and collectively, is the devil, this Satan, this adversary, the voice of the talking snake, all things wrapped up. And that is what creates the versions of the Jesus that the humans create, that the humans want, because it suits them, because it jives with what's inside them to create whatever God they want to create, whatever Savior they want, and however they want that Savior to look. It's based on the evil that's inside them. It's based on not what's good about them, but what's bad about them. They don't create their gods and their superheroes based on things that are outside of them that they don't find acceptable. They create their gods and their superheroes based on what's inside them to want to have, want to get, want to crave. That they do crave and want to get so that they can fulfill those cravings. So this kind of mushmouth Jesus God, this pithy, generic, all-accepting God who loves the humans, is what becomes this God of man, the God that has ruled at least the Western world for almost a couple of thousand years. And there have been all kinds of different versions made of him, but it's the same basic myth that governs them all. Because the myth is a fantasy. The fantasy comes from within the heart and the mind of the animals who create that myth and fantasy, based on what they love, based on what they want, based on the craving that's inside them to get what they find acceptable. It's the same reason that the Jews who were looking for Messiah were looking for a particular Messiah, not the one who was sent to them, but the one whom they wanted. It's the same mechanism at work in the Jews as is at work in the humans today, who lift up this Jesus God, the prevalent version of the all-loving Jesus, who just loved the humans so much, and who felt then the same way that the humans who make him up feel a God should be, should act, should exude, the qualities a God should exude, that they would find acceptable. The Jews wanted the great warrior, king, supernatural son of David, Messiah. Because the Jews had this gigantic chip on their shoulder. Because they were a nation that was overrun by superpowers. And in their literature, in the scriptures that were preserved, there is this supernatural call. There is a supernatural pointing to a Savior. A Savior that would, like David, being the son of David, come and forcefully call down the armies of God to quash the Romans and anyone else who stood in the way of their great hope, the hope of Israel. As they interpreted the hope of Israel for their own sake, for themselves, for their animal craving to get what they so desperately wanted, that is, to be this great nation, to bring the kingdom down, to make the kingdom happen. There were people who were more excited about this revolutionary warrior, king, son of David than others. People like Judas, who was very much pro-Israel, pro-Zion, bringing the kingdom. So he was very excited about this prospect of the Messiah being here in his midst, able to touch him, able to see that he did supernatural things. That the finger of God did miraculous things. That he possibly could be the one that he and the others in Israel were waiting for. And the anticipation of personal greatness was high and heavy. The anticipation of personal greatness went along with the greatness of this kingdom of Israel.